Wow. I was listening to Groypers live because I heard Republican Ash say something about it. So whenever I'm listening, right? Sometimes Groyper has some decent opinions, but I always find it funny how people seem to forget some of the things he said and done. But that's okay. Whatever. Hypocrisy is live and well and flourishing here in the YouTube drama streets. But Dispeller is up there again explaining why her husband, did what he did when he was 12 years old. Uh, and of course, she tries to give reasons why it could have happened. And I listened to her really closely. And I think what people seem to forget when they speak to Dispeller is that she's not in love with what he did. She's in love with the man. And when she says that she tries to live by the Bible, I think I see that because he can be forgiven for that act. People say he can't, but he can be. The only thing the Bible tells us, the only sin that's not forgivable is blasphemy, and that's when you blatantly cuss God. When you blatantly mock Jesus, that's blasphemy, and that cannot and will not be forgiven. When you stand in judgment, if there's blasphemy in your background, he's going to say, "Get thee away from me, I never knew you." On blasphemy, but everything else, any other sin, including murder. Some of the disciples were murderers, tax collectors, can be forgiven if you ask and you do not repeat that. If you ask to have a sin forgiven with every intention of committing that sin again after you ask for it, God already knows that. See, here's where Dispeller and I have something in common. We had to love someone that did terrible things. Now, my situation might be a lot different because it's biological and not emotional like it is for Dispeller. I think that Dispeller should have kept that to herself because there's nothing about Matt's story that would help anybody. It wouldn't help anybody in knowing what he did. It doesn't help anybody. I think that some things are better left unsaid at times. And I can understand all these females out here that look at her, and males that look at her and say, wow, she's defending this sex offender. I think that Dispeller needs to keep her comment when people are coming at her about her husband, which they shouldn't do, and they wouldn't be doing if they wouldn't have made it public, is to keep it simple. I love the man, not what he's done. I do believe he's in his 40s right now, or around that age. And if it's something that he did when he was 12 years old, he's got to live with that. But I don't think he should get a life sentence for that. I think precautions should be taken geographically and who's around that man. But I'm not in defense of Dispeller at all. I just kind of understand how she feels. So, now Groyper has some good insight every now and then for a racist fuck. I don't understand how people know that physically abusing and mentally abusing children damages them. It damages them life for life. And then you have to stop and think about the place where this very important discussion took place. Because I understand Republican Ash's point, and I understand Remy's point, but I also understand Dispeller's point. I don't think that the speller, when she chose to look for a man or a mate or a person to have children with, uh, in her requirements for that had placed must be a sex offender. I think that she just fell in love with someone that had this darkness in their life. So that's what happened. You got to remember also, Groyper had a great ending monologue for her. It was pretty good, but this is also someone said, "Oh, I could kick a baby. I could kick a baby down the street, even if it was just joke." I think, like I said, I think the speller should just stop talking about that because people don't like sex offenders, and they don't like people that like sex offenders. That's why I get a lot of shit because my son. That's a sentence for all of us. You're making what he did before you met him a sentence for you. And maybe you should just say, "Look, I'm not discussing that." That's probably one of those things that's better left unsaid. So I thought I'd put my thoughts in there on that. That's all. I'm gonna check my chat. Hey, Casey, it's his story, not hers. Right, right. Yeah, I think that needs to be just not discussed any longer because we all know about it. We do know that Delusion, the speller, is not a sex offender herself. Let's try not to hold her accountable for something that somebody did when they didn't even know her. You know what I mean? I see that Carla kicked Groyper out of her mod. Said she can't have nothing to do with that, but she was over in that chat. It's crazy. Y'all have a good day. And just, lighten up on Delusion Dispeller. She can't help who she loves. And there's God fearing people out there have to understand that love thy neighbor, even no matter not because of if you have to. Anybody is redeemable, I believe. When somebody has that type of stuff inside of them, it's demonic. And the only way to get rid of the darkness is to run to the light. But you have to actively pursue that, which I don't see that. I see it in Dispeller, but not Matt. I can't understand why she would want to tell his story like that because, again, it's not helpful to anybody. How does that story help anybody who hears it? But I am glad that the YouTube streets have calmed down. That is a topic that's we're talking about once or twice, but I've been listening to this shit about that ever since I've known her. And trust me, I've had my issues with her too. This woman that, wants to give us reasons as to why sex act between children could have occurred is the same person who had no problem with getting under FOD's video where she was encouraging people to send CPS over here because one of my children got yelled at, stern with. Yeah, them kids need to go talk to. But my husband, he had brain damage, and he had been molested himself. Blah 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 blah. You got to consider the sources of the panel. Republican Ash makes pretty good sense. Remy makes pretty good sense. I don't think that it's delusion dispeller doesn't care that he did that. She doesn't care of people's opinion on why she chooses to be with him. So, you just be lucky somebody who's damaged like that, because she's giving us examples of how her husband is damaged. Just be glad that he's got somebody that loves him and has his back like that, because everybody deserves that. And that's just being honest. Y'all have a good day now. And remember, don't take life so seriously. You never get out alive. Poof.